Good morning, Christina.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm very well, and it's a beautiful sunny day, about 26 degrees
Oh, 26 in Austin.
in Austin. Yes,
Man.
not used to this. Yesterday we had snow. It's beautiful, but it's sunny, so the
Yeah.
snow melted.
uh, It's sunny here in Vegas too. It's beautiful, but it's cold.
Yeah.
My kids try to go outside. They're like, "No, mom, that's fine. There's no wind." Like true Midwesterners. They're like, "Oh, it's fine as long as there's no wind." I'm like, "It's 20 degrees." I don't know. I think it was like 29 yesterday morning
Wow.
when I sent them
Wow.
off to school. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. My
It's
daughter in
cold, but
Charleston got a lot of snow.
yeah, and I'm not shoveling snow, so that's
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
No more shoveling. I
Okay,
remember
so
those in Michigan.
we're going to talk about meetings and
Yeah.
I told a joke at a Zoom meeting and
Hmm.
no one laughed. I guess I'm not even remotely funny.
That's funny.
So there's your joke for today. Maybe we'll start off every Wednesday morning
Oh, there you go with a joke. Since you
live.
have those safe for work jokes.
Yeah, safe for work jokes. I have a lot of not safe for work jokes, but coming up with a couple safe for work jokes helps. So yeah, I'm not even
So
remotely funny.
that wouldn't have worked in the before times and pre-COVID.
Yeah,
This there are fewer people using Zoom and fewer remote workers. And although a lot of people are going back to work, they're going in office.
yeah, they are. Doesn't make
Yeah,
everybody happy. Makes some people happy, but the key for good leadership is to give people some control, give
yeah,
them some choices, give
yeah,
them some agency about their own workplace. So you
yeah.
let them have some control over that.
I mean, I had an acquaintance who was saying they got called back into the office. Well, they had moved. They've been
Mm,
remote for 4 years.
mhm.
So they're 2.5 hours away from the office. And now suddenly they're supposed to do that commute.
That's a wasted
Okay.
5 hours a day.
Exactly.
A lot of your
Exactly.
a lot of your time.
Yeah, they're looking for a new job. They're going to a new role because you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's not how they were hired either. They were hired to be remote and it wasn't an issue.
Yeah. And I think that's not a single piece of data. That is probably
Unfortunately.
true for a lot of people. And then what they do is they look for more remote work
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they can stay where they are, but just find
Exactly.
a job where they can work
Well, I
remote.
mean, if you moved your family, your kids are in school,
Right. It's a lot of trouble to try to move again. That people do it, but it is a
yeah,
lot of trouble.
tens of thousands of dollars to do that, right? To pick up
Right.
and get a new
Right.
home and never
Yeah,
mind.
not to
Never
mention
mind.
selling your home and buying a new one. So
Mm, yeah, not a fan.
yeah,
Not a
not
fan.
good.
I think the other thing we were talking about, speaking of meetings, is we were talking about how um, leaders make decisions, right?
Yes.
I had a leader who was was hired. It was interesting because everyone else on the team knew what to do and how to work, and we had experience, and then the
Mhm.
person with the least experience was in charge, unfortunately, in this case. And because of that, it showed that they didn't want to make a decision
Yeah, of
unless
course.
we had consensus. So we had a meeting for everything because he would have to make a decision and then he'd call all of us around a table to make the decision for him, and then he'd go back and go, okay, well, this is what my team says, and this person was the
Uh,
loudest, or this person, so this is what they're going to do. And then of course he has no accountability because the team did it.
right, it's a CYA move.
Yes, CYA. Cover your you know I I think that if we have people who are going to be promoted into leadership roles, they need some kind of decision um, training, efficiency for meetings training. They need training to understand what is it most important on their team. How do we uncover what each individual person is motivated by?
Yeah.
And then how do we lead and motivate based on that?
Yeah. So I think that there are some meetings that are important and some that are not important. And the not important ones include just a status update. We go
Oh,
around the
right.
room and everybody says what they're working on and what they've got completed. And, it doesn't take but a nanosecond for everybody to fall asleep or, you know,
Right.
start checking their email or something different
Yes.
than following that. So status updates can go online. Meetings can be for addressing questions and making decisions, as we just said.
Right. Let's say you have a block and you can't get past it. You're not sure what you need. Maybe you need some more resources. Okay, we're in a meeting. Somebody else pull somebody off of this team. Can we have a few hours over here? We just need a
Yeah,
UX person over here. That's what meetings are for. If you need
right.
to quickly, reallocate some things and ask for help, I get that. But
Yeah.
if you're just like you said, everybody's coming in, it's basically roll call. You're basically taking attendance, right? Hey, I'm here. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me. This is what we did. This is what I'm working on. It, it could have been just
So
an
one
update.
company that I am familiar with well, my colleagues and I would try to get a meeting with some people in that
Yeah.
company, but what we learned pretty quickly was that the leaders in that company and many of the senior developers were scheduled for meetings 8 hours a day.
8 hours a day.
8 hours a day,
And
and
did
I
they do
had
the actual working?
exactly. I had to think, what did that do to productivity? Well, if your productivity can only come after hours, it's it's just
Yeah.
horrible. And that company has been through some rough times.
Ah,
A skeleton of it still survives, but you can't expect people to be productive if they're always in meetings.
right.
It was a meeting about this product and that product and how we were going to merge these two teams and just endless
Endless.
and
And
that
so nothing ever
doesn't
gets
work.
done.
Yeah, that doesn't work. So if you look at your leaders' calendars and you see that they're booked from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day of the week,
Yeah.
a problem because productivity comes to a screeching halt if that person is expected to get anything done. And maybe that
Right.
person isn't doing any technical work, just things like planning, scheduling, performance reviews, strategy. But when are they going to do the strategy?
Right.
While they're in another meeting?
Right.
Sort of defeats the purpose.
Right.
So,
Right.
anyway,
Right.
just, there's some bad practices that are ingrained in people.
Sure.
And, I know myself, I can get caught up in a lot of online meetings every day.
Mm.
It doesn't give me time to, say, write my book. So,
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
or prep for an upcoming conference. And
Right.
so, that
Right.
it's meetings can be a real time suck.
Yeah.
And you need to watch for that and not let yourself get into that if you have the power and if you are the leader. Don't let your team be sucked into meetings every
Right.
hour of the day. That's just
I
crazy.
had a friend who's a really good he had a really, really great philosophy on that. And his approach was, you know what? I am the barrier. I'm the barrier so that my team doesn't get bogged down with unnecessary meetings, unnecessary interruptions. My team needs to be just head down writing code. Sure,
Yeah.
we need to check in. yes, they know what they need to do. We will follow, certain protocols for check-ins and stand-ups. You got to at least communicate with each other, right? But his whole thing was just to keep the C-suite off their backs.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm the manager. I'm here to protect my team so they can actually do their work, and I'm here to make them look good. I
Yeah.
think that's rare. I think a lot of other leaders are there because they want to make themselves look good, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's where that extra meeting comes from, like the one that I said, who was unsure of himself, so he'd make
Mhm.
everybody get together and make decisions for him,
Mhm.
yeah.
I was at a conference not well a while ago, and I was talking to people about if they wanted to move their career up. They were individual contributors, and did they want to move up to a leadership position?
Uh-huh.
So before I started the meeting, I had them do a word cloud while
Okay.
they're coming in, sitting down, and looking at a blank screen. Only it wasn't blank because this word cloud was developing,
Uh-huh.
and the word cloud was the answer to the question, what are the main responsibilities of a leader?
Yes.
And I had pre-populated it with strategy and budgeting, just a
Uh-huh.
couple of things to pre-populate it, which I didn't think were the main jobs. But anyway, I just
Sure.
wanted to pre-pop. Turned out that the main job they put up there was protecting us. And I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
But in this case, they're protecting their team's time,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they're protecting them from political nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a point to that, which at the time shocked me, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of all these proactive things, and they're thinking of this defensive move
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
protect.
Yeah.
But in fact, if you want your team to get stuff done, you need to protect them from interferences and
Yes.
distractions
Yeah.
and crazy stuff. So,
All it takes is, people come up to your desk and they go, "Hey, can I have 5 minutes? Can I just interrupt you for five?" It takes you like 45 minutes
yeah,
to get the balls back up in the air again that you were
right.
juggling in the right flow, in the right, because developers are holding multiple threads at a
Yes,
time.
yes, they are. When I was a young developer,
Mm,
I thought of it this way. I mean, in software, we would talk about popping things off the stack and pushing things on the stack. So
mhm.
think of a cafeteria with a thing of dishes with a spring below. So it's
Yeah,
always pushing up the next
right.
dish. Okay. So
Yeah.
when someone interrupts you, it's like you have to pop off 20 dishes.
Right.
When they leave, then you can push down those 20 dishes and get back to
And get
where
back
you were
to it.
thinking. Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's a
that's
good way.
pop
That's a good
up
way.
pop the stack and push onto the stack
Yeah.
metaphor that works for developers who are working at that low level,
Yeah.
which I was. And so I would love to work late at night because then
It's quiet.
I didn't have
No
those interruptions.
interruptions.
Yeah. Friday
Yeah.
night was the best because everybody was gone for
Okay.
sure.
That's it. Yeah.
uh, didn't do wasn't very popular with my family, but
Right.
but it was useful for me. And when I was a student, we had such limited resources because it was early days in the computer industry,
Uh-huh.
and we had to get time on some mainframe computers to do our simulations. And I found that when all the doors were locked and I had a key to the philosophy department's building and I could
Uh-huh.
get in and use the one computer in there on Sunday mornings when no
Oh,
other
perfect.
buildings were open,
Right.
I could get my work done. Otherwise, it'd be 40 minutes between instructions. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that sounds crazy. People wouldn't even understand that because it's so crazy, but it's about having uninterrupted time.
Yeah.
When you have the uninterrupted time, you can get a lot done.
Right.
And that's pretty hard to protect.
Yeah.
But meetings are just, ugh, they're just
You know what I do
take
in the
away from
case of focusing, I really like the Pomodoro method.
that.
And in that case, we'll do like remote meetings. I have a couple people that I've done this with where
Mhm.
we'll jump on a remote meeting and I'll just have the window open and I'll say, okay, so we're going to set a timer for 25 minutes, uh, whatever the block of time is. And then we wait. Usually about for me and my focus, 25 minutes is that spot. If
Mhm.
I come back on and okay, 25 minutes is up, if I'm really in it, I'll just jump right back into it again. But I
Mhm.
might need a palate cleanser. I might need to stretch, move around, refill my water, and then go get back into it again, another 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And I find that that really helps because then I get into a flow of it.
Mhm.
Sometimes I can hyper focus, and we
Mhm.
know what this is about. The tech community, especially, usually fosters this kind of behavior when you hyper focus and you lock in, right?
Mhm.
My kids say lock in. They do that. Um, but I've hyper focused before, sit down for 10 hours straight and work on a marketing campaign or, a website and just I'm gone. And
And
then I head up 10 hours later, dehydrated, I'm stiff, I'm sore, it's dark outside. I'm like rubbing my eyes. What happened,
and and if you were interrupted, you would have to pop so many of those dishes off the
Right.
stack
That's
and
exactly
then
it.
reload them
Uh,
when your brain had a chance to get back to work. There's
yeah.
so much going on, and
Yeah.
when you have to unload it, I mean, that's why people talk about, uh, multitasking.
Oh, right.
Really not efficient
Right.
because when you switch tasks, you unload a few dishes, and when you go back to that task,
You
you have
gotta
to
reload.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you unload a few, pop on a few more, pop those off, go back, reload, and of course, it just takes nanoseconds for you to do that, but that's many nanoseconds per day.
That's right.
So, you're popping and pushing all day long on
Yeah.
those,
That
stacks.
context switching takes a lot of energy and um
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not efficient. It's not
yeah.
efficient. I would think I would be efficient because I didn't get up. But
Mhm.
actually, you're thinking you start to get dazed, you start to get kind of la la la. It starts to slow because I have so many things. I get deeper and deeper, and then I follow a different tangent, and I'm not focused. And oh, get back on path. Oh, back over here, back over here. No, we're not adding these things, and no, focus, focus, focus. And so I find if I use a structured way to work, like a Pomodoro method or setting an hour timer, and then I get up and maybe do some push-ups and get some blood moving through my my arms and my back instead of
Mhm.
hunched over like this, right?
Yeah.
Um, just whatever it is, if I get into that, my work, my thinking, it's almost like I get a palate cleanser and then I'm ready
Mhm.
to go. And I
Yeah.
can stay efficient and I can stay on task and I can stay focused and that's helpful. It's really helpful.
I think it is really helpful. I like to set a sort of a goal for when
Hmm.
I'm done with my work. Say
Yeah.
I'll give myself a 45-minute block, and
Yeah.
at the end, then I'm gonna have the palate cleanser for me is a fresh cup of tea and maybe
Nice.
a walk outside in the woods. Happen to
Yeah.
be fortunate to live in the woods, and so I can go outside and check out the birds and
Love it.
the animals, and it's just takes me away. Just
Nice.
completely takes me away. And
Nice.
then when I'm done, I go back and I can start on a new
Sounds
task.
wonderful. I grew up with forest behind my house. I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There are plenty of trees, lots of woods
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
And so now, of course, I live in the desert and there's not a whole lot of animals. And I can go out because I live in the suburbs, but I can go out. I just have to drive to a trail or
Yeah, that's more effort.
Yeah, it's more
But it
effort.
does cleanse your brain. So
It does, yeah, and I can walk around the block in our neighborhood. Okay. But
yeah.
I do remember, nature. I was a plant geek long before I was a marketing geek. My degree's in ecology and environmental sciences, and I studied in the Australian rainforest. I spent time in the rainforest in Mexico and the Yucatan.
Oh,
I
wow.
love plants. Yeah, love so nature has always been that for me too. Really
Yeah.
refreshing. Even
Mm,
I remember when I was younger, I worked at a restaurant and there was like a reservoir, like a little lake. And on my breaks, I would always go sit by the lake or take my
mhm.
lunch by the water. And people would be like, "Where are you going? Where do you go for your?" Like, I need some nature. It's so
Yeah.
crazy in here. I just
Yeah.
need a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At a earlier point in my career when I on Fridays,
Hmm.
we had a nice little restaurant no longer among us, El Patio, I think it was called, or
Mm,
something like that. And it was a Spanish Mexican restaurant with an outdoor patio that was
mm.
pleasant, if not in the summer, but really pleasant most of the year. And they had half price, whatever,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
nachos and food and all sorts of things and drinks. And so I would take my team there on Friday afternoons
Oh, yeah.
and we'd do strategy.
Oh,
What are
strategy
we
on
gonna,
Fridays.
how are we
Okay.
gonna approach this? And it was a great meeting
Uh,
because we were in a different setting. We were in
right.
an outdoor setting with
Yeah.
plenty of trees and flowers and birds
Yeah,
around.
the creativity is different.
And it was a time to
Mhm.
think about something other than your day-to-day work.
Right.
And so that was a I'm not recommending that to everybody because not everybody has that opportunity to go
Mhm.
find a nice place outside to have a meeting. But
Mhm.
when you're really changing the topic,
Mhm.
really want to change the mindset of people,
That's
just
interesting that you say that. My friend, it's reminding me, one of my friends who is a COO at a company, a marketing agency, she came up with "What's It Wednesdays" or "What's It" or "What is it Wednesdays" or something like that. And so on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock, they would go to the bar and they would bitch and complain, and it was off the record. And so every Wednesday, they knew that they had an opportunity to get some time with their leader so they could sit down and be like, "Dude, like, what are we doing? What is this? What is it?" Right? And she called it "What is it Wednesdays" or "What's it Wednesdays" or something like that. And that's what they would do from 3 to 5 on every Wednesday. That was their team meet. Again, I don't recommend that for everybody. It doesn't work for everybody. But for them, it was 3 or 4 people. It wasn't like they were going to the bar and getting trashed or anything, but they
right.
were having a beer and they were like, "Okay, what's going on? What do I need to know off the record? Let's be perfectly candid here. What's going on?" Yeah.
And that is, I mean, I want to make 2 points.
Mhm.
One, I want to encourage leaders to be creative in
Ah,
thinking about how they do things with their teams that are
yeah.
non-standard.
Mhm.
So my going to the patio restaurant was non-standard. Your friend going to the bar is non-standard.
Right.
But we're not saying everybody has to do those things. We're saying do something creative,
Yeah.
fun, pleasant. Do something pleasant.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the other point I wanted to make is what your friend
Mhm.
does can increase trust
Yes.
because they're allowed to ask questions and get
That was
real
it. They're
answers.
allowed to, it's not going to be held over that if you want to vent, come vent right now. This is the
Yeah,
place for it. This is the safe box. I've created a container and I'm not
yeah,
going to hold it against you. I'm going to take out the useful information and we'll move forward from there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they can ask, why are we not putting any resources on this project over
Yeah.
here? Is that about to be killed?
Yeah.
And their leader can't just say, I've got a meeting down the hall
Right.
and rush off. Their leader is there with them for the
Right.
duration.
Exactly.
And so, they can get answers that,
Yeah.
as much as the leader can answer them, that,
In
they
a
can count on.
candid, direct way, how we normally speak to each other, right?
Right, right. I think that's
And
a great way to
yeah.
build trust.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
to do
It
that.
worked really well for her. It was good.
Mhm. I
It
like
worked
it.
really well. But then, of course, remember, that doesn't work for everybody. I mean, remember, we have people who don't drink. We have people who, things
Yeah,
like that.
and
Yeah.
it might be a farther distance for them to drive home from.
Right, right,
Or
right, right. Now, in
something.
this
You
case,
gotta
it was, very casual. It was very candid, and it was controlled, and it was a small team. So,
yeah,
yeah, it was all very manageable.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and of course, all these things we're talking about are really hard to do when you have a remote team, and
Mm,
a lot of our friends and colleagues have remote teams now. So
yeah,
meetings are kind of when they check in and see that their people are actually functioning okay.
yeah.
Um, a friend of mine had one new employee who
Uh-huh.
had done very well on his work, but he was always really quiet in the meetings and didn't seem to know the answers to some of the most basic stuff, but his work
Oh,
was perfect.
okay.
And my friend got an email from another person saying, so and so, that person on your team isn't who you think he is. So my son responded back and said, tell me more. And
Yeah.
it turned out that this person worked remotely. So when he would get a task to do, he would give it to this third person who was very smart, and he would do the work, and then the employee would turn it in.
Wow.
So, and how do you guard against that? And it was by having meetings that my friend noticed that there was a
That's
disconnect
right.
between
Yeah.
his work product,
Uh-huh.
his presence and seeming
Sure.
understanding in the meetings. So
Yeah,
it made
it becomes
me
pretty
understand.
clear pretty quickly that he
He took care of
wasn't good
it.
at his job. Yeah.
And the other thing is, I'm reading a lot about people who are actually working two jobs,
Ah.
juggling them because they're remote. And so they can,
Mhm.
so the meetings, when you're remote, the meetings have a different uh, use. It's
Yes.
also to check in and
Yeah.
see your employees are all there.
Yeah. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
To
Anyway,
make sure that they're not passing the work off to somebody else.
yeah,
Wow. That's bold.
it,
That's bold.
I mean, I'm repeating this story because it was shocking to me that people would even think to do that. And of course, now I go, okay, so people are remote, they can get away
I
with things
guess.
like that.
Yeah.
So how
It
do
wouldn't occur to me. No.
Christina, will you just do this work for me and turn it in, please?
Right?
Right.
What happens if that person has questions, if they need clarification? You can't even answer those questions. You can't
Can't
even
answer the question.
give like specifications. You don't know anything about the requirements because
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. I
So,
don't know how they expect it to continue like that. It's not
well, obviously
sustainable.
it wasn't sustainable.
Mm-mm.
And the person who was now burdened with all the work, the friend of
Yeah,
the friend of the employee,
exactly. Yeah.
he's the one who turned on the light on that.
Oh,
So,
gosh. That's
because it wasn't
frustrating.
sustainable for him, he was doing his friend's work and his own
Right.
work. Um,
Right. Do we have that scenario in our workshop? Do we have
well,
that we should add that scenario. We
we
should add that to our leadership workshop,
I
Leslie, in
think
one
we
of our
can, and
that's a
I
good one.
certainly have the details to.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
So how do you?
So I got accepted. I'm excited to say I got accepted to speak in NDC Oslo. So that's
Awesome!
exciting. I'm going to Norway.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. This is going to be my third time that I'm speaking at that conference. So that's pretty exciting.
That's great.
Yeah. And then, of course, you and I are going to be in Oh, did I hear back from? I'm trying to think. We heard back from Dev some, but not about the workshop, though. I don't think, huh?
Yeah, I haven't heard from Deb some yet. There's some things coming up that one is in Las Vegas, and I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
sure if we'd heard back on that one. So anyway,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we have to
Let's
have
check.
some offline discussions here.
Yeah, we got a few things coming up. We got a
Yeah,
few
we
things
do.
coming up for speaking. And then, of course, we are always making updates to our website. We added a blog post up there if anybody wants to go check out luckyandleslie.com. And of course, we're doing our regular Wednesday lives. You can catch us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, usually on YouTube. Like today, it looks like YouTube worked. YouTube didn't work the last week, but today it looks like we're streaming to YouTube just fine.
Good.
And then, of course, on Facebook as well. And if
Yeah.
anybody's interested in learning more about our workshop, you can find out the details at luckyandleslie.com.
Yeah. And if you have a question, like a particular leadership challenge that you would like to have addressed,
Mm-hmm.
just let us know. We're happy to address all these challenges. And believe me, we've faced most of them. Not the employee who had another person doing his work.
That was rare. That's a rare, like I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah.
That's a rare occurrence. I think we should use that. We should mock that up and start teaching that in our
We
workshop.
can.
That would be
It's
a good
not
one.
hard. Yeah,
How do
that'll
we
be.
deal with that
How,
person,
how do
right?
you recognize that? And
Hmm.
then how do you deal with recognizing it was really half, well, more than half the problem.
Yeah,
Not easy to recognize.
right.
So yeah,
Right.
we'll put that in.
Huh.
Fun, fun.
Interesting. All right. Well, hey, in the meantime, I will talk to you in a week. We will be here 7 a.m. Pacific, 9 Central, live on LinkedIn and my YouTube and Facebook. And if anybody wants to reach out, you can reach us at luckyandleslie.com.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Talk later.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye.